7 tips for smoother live streaming production. This is going to help you, especially if you use Ecamm, but even if you don't, really fine tune the little things about your production to make sure that you can show up, be more confident in your production, and actually make it a smoother live stream. Are you ready to do this? I hope so, because we're going to dive into these 7 tips. Plus, I've got a bonus for you. If you're new around here, please do type in new in the comments. I would love to meet you. And if you are new, then you don't know me. Well, hello, I'm Luria Petrucci from Live Streaming Pros, where I help you create professional live video that is uniquely you. And I'm super excited to get into these tips. So let's just go right in. Now, I want to make sure that you understand that I am using Ecamm Live, and some of these tips are specifically about Ecamm Live. However, you'll also find general production tips in here as well, so that whatever software you're using, you'll be able to increase the smoothability. Is that a word? Smoothability, it is now, of your live streams. Okay, let's see. Just want to see if we have anybody new joining us live. You guys are, no, we've got a whole bunch of oldies in the house. All right, thank you so much. So tip number 1, we are going to disable or remove any cameras that we don't need. Here is the thing. We've got Greg. Greg is new. Awesome. Greg and Stu are new. So here's what we're going to do. In order to reduce the load of your CPU, okay, we're going to remove cameras. So you might have multiple cameras connected. You might not be using all of those cameras in every production. So consider before you go live what cameras you're actually using. And big tip here, we're going to go into demo mode. And we want to see, so you see when I create a new scene, right? We've got these 3 different cameras in our camera switcher, right? We've got the AbiCam. Hi, Abs! We've got the FaceTime built-in camera, and we've got my main camera. For the sake of today, I am just going to be using the Camlink and the HD60S Plus, right? So the AbiCam and my main cam. I will never, ever, 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 ever use the FaceTime HD built-in camera, because why would I when I have another camera, right? So if you have another camera connected and you don't need the built-in camera, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go into camera and you are going to actually disable your, here, we have to go into preferences, and then we are going to disable built-in camera right here at the bottom. So if you look right here at the bottom, disable built-in camera. So this is what we want to do right off the bat. Okay, if you haven't done that and you do not need it, then go ahead and click that. Now you see it has gone away from my camera switcher. Okay, now what we also want to do is go into camera, and then we need to go into include in switcher. Now, I have Epoch Cam available at all times for my mobile device, right? If I need to bring in my camera as or my phone as a source, but I don't include that in my switcher when I don't use it, right? I only include it when I'm actively using that. So very important to remember. If I'm not going to use the AbiCam, I undo that, right? And I've probably screwed up my other, now she pops back. I've probably screwed up some other scenes, so if I have to fix scenes, we'll know soon, just by disabling that. That's a power tip. Had no idea. Fantastic. So I'm glad that that's helpful. You guys want to definitely make sure you're doing that first off, right off the bat, okay? Do not allow the CPU to, get bogged down with anything you don't actually need. Why? Why would we do that, right? Okay, so the second one is to start with blank scenes. Now, this is a this is a tip because of tip number 3, which I'm going to give you a cue about, but we're going to use camera overlays in tip 3. But tip 2, we got to start with blank scenes. Now, you'll understand these two together here in a bit. All right, so we're going to go back into demo mode, and we're going to go into Ecamm Live, then Preferences. And then we are going to go to default source mode. Default is camera. Okay, so when you download Ecamm, you're starting with the camera. But what we're going to do instead is go to blank screen. Okay, so when you create a new source, it's going to be blank. It's not going to start off with a camera. That's important. You'll see why here in just a second. So now when we create a new scene by clicking the new empty scene, we start with black. Okay, and that helps us create a situation where whatever we're going to build into our scenes, then we're starting with not a camera source adding to that CPU usage, right? Adding to the extra oomph that it's requiring. Okay, I think that's the technical term. The extra oomph that it's requiring. Always, always, always start with blank scenes. Thank you, Doc, for the confirmation. They are very, very useful. Okay, so now in tip 3, camera overlays, this is why you start with a blank scene. Because what we're going to do is we're going to create something that looks like this, right? So this is the end result of camera overlays. I've got my main camera, but I also have the Abby cam where it's an actual overlay. So I'm not using the PIP situation or the share screen native functionality. Instead, I've built out 2 cameras on top of each other. This is one of my favorite features about Ecamm. It gives you massive control over your production. So here's what we're gonna do. We're going to create a new scene. Click that plus button in the scenes section. All right, so we have black, right? Then we can go ahead and, we can go to the camera, or actually what you want to do with camera overlays, sorry, I screwed that up, hold on, redo. We're going to create a new scene, and then we're going to let's add in a PIP here. So you're just gonna see just me here. Let's see. We're going to add in this PIP, okay? So we now have 2 camera sources that we need to add, but we're not gonna use this native functionality. What we're gonna do instead is come down here to the overlays screen. I'm gonna bring that up so you can see this little button right here with the camera plus sign, new camera overlay. All right, we've got Abby. So we can put her in here. And what you're gonna do is click this little pencil icon and choose the camera and then go into custom mode, depending on your overlay. And then we can get her settled in here. Then we're going to add a new camera overlay, and that's gonna be me. So we're gonna change that camera to me, and then we're gonna go into custom, and then we're going to fit that in here. So this is why camera overlays are so freaking awesome. Now, you see, it kind of looks bad, right? The boxes are over the overlay. So what we wanna do is come back to this overlays box and make sure that our layers are set correctly. This needs to be on top of the cameras. Then we have the rounded corners and the edges there, okay? So with blank scene plus the camera overlays, now what we've done is we've created the scene exactly how we want it. We've customized it with full custom control, and we are able to not have additional sources in the background taking up more CPU usage. So, you know, I built out this PIP, but you could also do something like this, right? It looks like I didn't have my Abby cam overlay, so I didn't build this one out, but this is another option for the end result. This is a camera overlay, as you can see. So we've got the camera overlay functionality here, right? With the overlay box and then the camera itself. So you can really do so much with these tips. So if you're not doing that already, be sure to. And if you have questions, don't forget to go ahead and ask your question. I'll tackle questions here shortly after I'm done with the 7 tips and put Q in front of them. Number 4, tip number 4 is to convert large animated graphics into HEVC format. Now, your large animated graphics, let's say you have, you have your snow. It's not firing. My snow never fires for some reason. Right? So we had maybe you have snow, or maybe you have a super chat alert, or you have an animated graphic of any kind. That's going to be a pretty large file when you create that. What you can do is convert that Apple ProRes 4444 file into an HEVC file, which is high efficiency video coding, and you can do that using QuickTime. Now, we have a cheat sheet for you just for this. Snow melted. The snow melted really fast. I just turned it off. So we have a cheat sheet that the magical Mr. Paul Dixon, who is our graphic designer, who creates all of our graphics and overlays and animations, he created a cheat sheet for you on how to actually do tip number 4. So we're posting that link in the comments right now and putting that that's also in the description. So you have that option to really shrink those file sizes. It's pretty impressive. That will help your production run a lot smoother because you're not just dragging these massive files into your production and making your computer work that much harder. Now, a couple of things to note. HEVC file coding, or that format, is going to lose a little bit of quality, but like L'Oreal, it's worth it for that smaller size, right? And you do have another option. You can use Apple's compressor app, but that costs $50. This other way that we're providing the shortcut for you is actually free. So if you want to use the compressor app, that's going to give you a little bit more fine-tuned control over the quality, but it is also more complicated. So you do have options in terms of shrinking those file sizes, whether you want to go free, just like Kathleen is adding here. It's livestreamingpros.com/MOV, and that will give you the cheat sheet on how to do that. Okay, tip number 5. You need to understand the limits of your machine. This is something. Okay, I'm not picking on any of you. Wait, hold on. Before I get into that, I just realized I missed a super chat. Thank you so much, Fresh Press Finance. So we don't actually have the super chat firing right now, but thank you so much for the super chat. I'm sorry. We actually have to make some adjustments to our super chat, so it's not actually firing live right now, but thank you so much. Okay, so the heartbreaking truth is that you have to understand, tip number 5, the limits of your computer. The thing that catches most people is that they actually want to do all of the fancy things that they see me and other people doing, and they have a MacBook 2009. It's not going to happen. You need to understand that your computer is what's running all of these fancy things, right? So you can use tip number 1 through 4 to limit the extra usage, the CPU usage, but it's also going to require that you pay attention to how much your computer can handle. So if you start hearing the fan whir, it starts to sound like it's taken off, it's a plane taking off, and that fan is really running, that's a really good sign that your computer is struggling to keep up with what you're asking it to do. Live streaming is one of the toughest tasks that you can ask your computer to do. So if your computer doesn't handle all of the extra stuff, then keep it simple with a camera. Just go straight camera, maybe 2 cameras, but probably not, right? So depending on your computer, then you need to make sure that you are able to do what you want to do. So if You have all of these dreams of things that you want to accomplish and how you want it to look and animations that you want to put on camera, imagery, videos, all of the things. Then what I want you to do is make a priority list of what those priorities really are for you in your production. What must be done? You must have a camera and an audio source. That's really the basics, right? You must have those two things. And then beyond that, I want you to start with that and then test, okay? Just set up a private live stream in a Facebook group or go to Facebook and do a private stream. You can do that on YouTube as well. And then I want you to watch what happens. You need to go live during this test because your computer needs to see the actual reality of streaming. And so start with your camera and mic and then add the next thing on your priority list. See how that handles it. Stream for a while with just that and then see what happens. If it handles it fine, add another thing, the next thing on your priority list. Go in order of priority, but you also may have to realize that your priority list may be something that your computer can't handle. So you'll need to remove that until you can afford to upgrade your machine. And with the Apple M1s, you guys, you can go with a Mac Mini at this point, the M1 Mini, and that's a, what, $700 investment? Thank you for the support there, Motorcycle. But you can really get by with a lower investment with the M1s. And of course, we expect more M1 goodness coming this year. So let's see. Okay, next tip. Number 6, use a dedicated streaming machine. So this is another investment, right? So a lot of people actually use the same computer that they use for work and everything else. Whether you're on a Mac or a PC, this is recommended if at all possible. Use a dedicated machine. This machine that I use right here literally has no other function than streaming. I bought an iMac in 2020 just for that. And I have always, for as long as I've streamed, for like, yeah, I've been doing video for 15 years, as long as I've been streaming for like, I don't know, 12 years. I've always used a dedicated machine because what happens is if you use your tradition, like the MacBook that you use for everything else, you're going to have other applications. You have a desktop full of files if you're anything like me. You have other things running in the background. You are going to notice a difference. It's going to keep it bogged down, okay? So make sure that as soon as you can afford it, you have that dedicated streaming machine. And another bonus tip, this wasn't in my list actually, but I'm going to say it right now. Bonus tip, make sure that you stop all background syncing. Turn off all background syncing. If you want a smooth production, Dropbox, Google Drive running in the background, you'll notice that, and I don't have those on this machine, but you'll see that in the top taskbar right up here. You'll see those applications running in the background. Stop them before you go live. Please, for the love of live, stop those. Okay. We have another bonus, by the way, at the end. Number 7, use a second computer for bringing in keynote presentations or anything like that, right? So I use this machine when I want to do a speech or when I want to use a presentation of any kind. That way, I bring this in through a capture card, right? I plug a capture card in here, connect that to my computer, and then I'm able to use the camera overlays functionality to create that PIP, right? So instead of Abby here, it would be my computer source and my keynote presentation. Having that as a separate computer will really offload the heaviness of your main computer. So that's something to really, really keep in mind, okay? Oh, right. Let's see. You could, yeah, a TV. I mean, like, just you need a capture card to bring that in as a separate source so that it works as a camera overlay, but definitely separate as much as humanly possible. Also, I just keep coming up with tips, guys. do you forgive me for not sticking with 7? We're going to go for 10, I think. Okay. So, bonus tip, also, this is an extra bonus tip, bonus. Make sure that if your computer can't handle it, when you know the limits of your machine, right? And you're like, well, it really can't handle multiple cameras. You can use an ATEM Mini to offload the sources into the ATEM Mini, bringing in only one camera source into Ecamm. Now, I did an entire video about this. So if you want to watch that video on the Live Streaming Pros channels, then you can. But yeah, ATEM Mini can help you offload some of that source if your computer just isn't able to handle multiple camera sources. No, I said 10, not 11. Renee, 10, not 11. Yeah, good. You're loving the bonus tips. Good. Okay. The final bonus tip, number 10, is not to update your apps, okay? You don't want to update your apps right before you go live. This will get you in so much trouble. Or your computer software, right? Your OS. Do not update right before you go live. You know, you open your software, it says update available. Do not click that button. Are you listening to me? Do not click that button. You want to make sure that you wait on that. Say, remind me later, do your stream, then come back to it. As soon as you're done streaming, you can go ahead and update that. Then you'll allow, like you can test, if it's a major update, go ahead and do a quick test stream before you go live next. But that will make sure that you don't get screwed, right? So software updates are software updates, and we all know that they can come with bugs. And so whether it's an OS or Ecamm Live or anything, like Ecamm is really, really, really good at their updates. They also... somebody tell me, Ecamm, can I mention something coming up soon? Can I? Okay, so make sure that you do not do that. Save yourself pain and grief. Ecamm is really good at their updates. They tend to release really solid updates, but at the same time, any software can come with bugs that they need to fix when it's released to the masses. Okay, so just want to make sure. Holly, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you. I'm glad that these tips are helpful. Last update broke some printers. There you go. Updates can break so much stuff. You just don't want to mess with that. You have enough to worry about during your stream without worrying about updates. Yay, you wrote all of these down. Fab. Yay. Okay. So I think that this is saying, okay, I think I'm right. I'm not going to say it because I don't know. I don't know if I can say. What can I say? I want to say something about what's happening next week, but I'm going to wait until I get confirmation. Okay, so we're going to go into Q&A, but if you are watching the replay, please head on over here and watch this playlist full of awesome other tips to help you with your production. Specifically, there's a video all about your run of show, setting Ecamm up, setting your production flow up so that you have a really smooth stream and you know exactly what you're doing. I have another bonus tip. Okay, I'm going to save that for the live. If you're watching the replay, join us live so you get the awesomeness. I'll see you next time.